She had a very controversial comment, and it's a bold prediction that technology is going to replace real estate agents. Um, and whereas I might see that being true on the sale of large portfolios of properties, I think it's contrary to what you're saying, which is that in many ways, even all this technology and the ability to look at things and find deals on their own, there's still going to be a world where brokers have to, like, if you can give good advice, like, most people don't live, eat, and breathe real estate, right? So, like, the average person needs an advisor. Welcome to the Debt Doctor podcast, where we deliver the definitive prescription for navigating distressed real estate debt. I'm your host and America's most qualified debt doctor, Bill Bymel. I've spent my career investing in, diagnosing, and reviving thousands of distressed real estate situations. The Debt Doctor prescribes proprietary remedies to help you identify, acquire, and monetize undervalued real estate assets. Each episode gives you insider access to the strategies top cohorts use to transform market volatility into double-digit returns. If you enjoy what you hear today, hit the follow button, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and please share your support with a quick review. You can find me on the web at billbymel.com. Thanks for joining this episode of The Debt Doctor. Amanda Walsh, or should I say Mandy, the real estate broker, welcome to The Debt Doctor.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I want to start off by saying I've been on a trend the last few weeks really to level the playing field in terms of male female guests on the
hmm
show, because I started, and I've always been very much like wanting to feature. I don't know if you saw that, a year ago I did a special webinar for female leaders in the industry, like top real estate and mortgage professional females.
Awesome.
I
I didn't know that.
am you'll have to look that up. And I will
Yeah.
say, and I've always been attracted, obviously, to strong women. I am the son of a woman who was the first daughter in her family, of where she was one of four sisters, the first one to ever go to college, female to go to college in the family. It wasn't heard of in her family. She
hmm
went on to get a master's degree. For most of my childhood, my mom was the breadwinner in the family, meaning that she was making more than my father worked, but she was usually making more. She was running her own business. She was being my mom. And so I say all this because when we met and I got to know who you are as a mom and a founder of a real estate brokerage that's been around for over 2 decades, one of the things that we really connected on is, oh my gosh, how do you juggle everything? So how do you juggle everything?
It's definitely a balancing act. I try to put in, my 10-year-old, I'm like, okay, I try to get her off the bus, every day. So I have like in my calendar blocked out 4 p.m. on, it says mom mode. Now, that doesn't mean that she won't get off the bus and find something else to do. And then I wander back to my computer. But it's all about
hmm
scheduling things, right? And I have a 17-year-old daughter too, who's a senior in high school. And when she was, 2 years old, 3 years old, I was, running a new home subdivision, doing property management and resale. And she didn't get as much attention as, my younger one gets. So I really, all that kind of plays into how I parent now, I think, too.
Oh, that is so
hmm
interesting. Yeah.
it's great when you can like kind of learn. I mean, it's unfortunate, the younger one has to deal with, maybe this sense of,
Hovering.
abandonment.
Yeah, the younger one, deals with the
Now
hovering
the
issue,
new
and
one's
the
now got a
oldest is
helicopter
like, "You
mom,
didn't
right?
do that for me," So that's
That's
same thing
right.
with like packing lunches. I don't really cook much, and I'm not big on like packing lunches. I'm like, oh, they got lunch at school. It's cheap. And my youngest this year was like, oh, can you make my lunch for me? And I'm like, oh, okay. And I think, last year, if my oldest wasn't a senior and I wasn't holding on to these moments, I would have tried to convince her how she should eat lunch at school. But I was like, oh, these are the moments I need to, and then even came with, Mom, will you put a note in my lunch every day?
Oh
And I'm like,
my,
can I
that's awesome.
recycle the notes? Can you bring
I
them
think
back and
there's
I can?
some service out there that you could buy that like gives you the notes or something, but then it wouldn't be handwritten and it's not quite
Yeah,
the
there wouldn't
same.
be my
Yeah.
barely
My
legible handwriting.
I just think, and it's interesting because you're at that phase in, where you're seeing one that's about to exit the house. My only blood daughter is a sophomore in college. I just
Awesome.
went through all of that. We talked about this, I think,
Mhm.
that as a single dad, I've been raising her since she was 8 years old, and then my stepsons along with them. I was much less. There was a period of time where I was focused on my career. And listen, I was always involved in my kid's life. And luckily, I had a career in real estate and it was my own business always,
Mhm.
whether it was starting as a broker or an investor or even, as an executive for a New York fund, I was working on my own. And so I always had a certain flexibility, and you make a good point. You create that world around you, and then it allows you to schedule time. I Some of the most successful people that I admire in this business, any business, they still spend time. They have 3 hours that they do every day. They're like my partner in New York. He's coaching his son's baseball team. Yes, he's up at 4 a.m. to make sure his work gets done. And then after he gets home and the kids are asleep, he's back at the office. I mean, it doesn't, you just need to schedule it all correctly. But
Yeah.
it
Thank
is,
God for technology now.
yeah, that's true. That is so true. It is interesting though, because what you're pointing to with the younger one, I was very much aware of just in the last few years. When Elizabeth was a teenager or a middle schooler, I was still running around trying to balance work and still being there and travel and all of that. And she definitely points to the fact that her experience of me during those days was that I was always running away,
Oh,
And so when high school hit and we were stuck together for a year, her freshman year of high school in Beverly Hills, she probably didn't feel that so much.
right.
But in those years leading up to her graduation, I was super hyper aware of the fact that this were not my final years of really being able to be with her, where she's not wanting to live anywhere else. Now, what's
Mhm.
great is we still have this amazing relationship. I've always been very close and open with her, vice versa. Hopefully, I'm the one she calls when, the poop hits the fan. And that's true. Um,
Mhm.
and now I've even got her buying into the idea that wherever she moves, I'm going to have a place. And she's okay with that.
Yay. Good. Yeah, my oldest is, she just applied for 10 different colleges in early admissions. And I really am hoping for Florida, of course, but I'm also trying to not be, you go where you want to go. And then I'm
Right.
thinking, okay, I got to do a little business over where she is. So I'm hoping that it's Florida and that's a little easier for me.
Yeah.
But she's really got her eye on going to Virginia Tech, which is about 4 hours from me in Virginia. So that's kind of her. I think that's where she's going to end up going, but we'll see. We'll see.
But oh, because you're bouncing back to Florida a lot. Is that why
Hmm.
that you would like
Yeah.
that?
So I'm
Because
in
yeah.
Virginia, and then licensed in Florida also, and North Carolina. But I'm kind of on that, Virginia, North Carolina border area.
Hmm.
But for Florida, I'm there at least once a month, but it'd be nice to be there more, if I had a reason to be. So
Do you
yeah,
find, and you have brokerages, do you find, I guess if, as a broker, as a true broker, which I've gotten the sense that you are in a traditional way, which is finding hardworking agents in areas that you can nurture and support and really be their mentor, their guide, their compliance, etc. I'm
Mhm.
sure you do sell your own stuff, but you're doing the real brokering. Do do you find yourself spread thin? Do you find it difficult having to cross state lines? And, or what, unique perspective do you have that might be different than others
Yeah.
in the industry?
So I'm kind of just getting started on brokerage in the other states, right? So I just set
Hmm.
up AMW Real Estate in Florida last month. Just put 2 properties on the market myself, but I've got a call this afternoon with someone who's got his own thing, and if that works out, then I'll be getting a brick and mortar space there as well and bringing him on board in the Tampa area,
Hmm.
which is kind of the area all my business is coming from right now. So it's kind of,
Mm.
but definitely, leveraging technology. So all of my agents, I don't recruit. They kind of, they're connections that come to me. I'm not a numbers go to people. I'm more about agent attraction. And people, I am, like an SC on the disc profile. I'm not a high D personality. I'm not going after people. I'm not good at selling myself. I'm an introverted, shy person. So people do kind of, they more come to me. But what I'm seeing is because of technology, as long as I have like the same CRM and website in all the different places, I can do training anywhere. And now all the different locations can pop into the training and it can be relevant to them. And then I can
Mm.
record the training, put it in my learning management system, and then new agents are able to go in and access all the different trainings too. So far, I don't have anybody under me in Florida and North Carolina, but that is going to change in the next 6 months, most likely.
Are those states with reciprocity with Virginia, where you were just able to go in with your Virginia license, take a few tests and and have a license, or how does that work?
So North Carolina has reciprocity with Virginia, where you have to do a ton of CE. You can apply and do everything, but then it's like 90
Continuing
hours of
education for
CE.
those that don't know. Continuing education
Yeah,
is CE. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
continuing education. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
And then Florida was a whole, I had to do the whole class. I had to pass the test. It was just like starting over. Um,
Wow.
it was, yeah, yeah, very much.
Did
So,
you I guess you were like everybody else that got attracted to Florida, just the idea of getting, like, or was
yeah,
it, did like, why? I mean,
yeah.
I
So,
don't know. I understand why, because
uh
I do miss Florida. I live in Las Vegas now and it's dry as can be, and I did the 4 years in LA and it's beautiful weather there. Again, dry. I
mhm,
think I'm a fish out of water though. I think, there's a lot of
mhm.
value to Florida, but at the cost of living in Florida today, I wouldn't live there. So, what attracted you to Florida?
Um, it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of silly. So, I got into real estate when I was 19. So I have that perspective of I've been in real estate over half my life. But I think it's more of the lifestyle, which when I was, I guess 20 and I went there and I had family that grew up in Miami and, they kind of lived high on the hog per se. And I was kind of a middle class, I thought, wow, this is kind of the lifestyle that I want. And, waking up every day and being able to go to the beach and the weather's, yeah, it's going to rain, but it'll pass pretty quick.
Okay, so let's get back into some real estate stuff. Do you have any wildly unpopular opinions or views about the industry that you might want to share with us?
Wildly unpopular. I do have, I have a lot of people that, I guess, why, that this business, I think I guess I want to talk about like the perspective of being a real estate professional. You
Mm,
see like selling Sunset and HGTV, and it just looks so easy. And then people try to get in the business and it's not, and they don't realize that it's not a 9 to 5 and that it's a lifestyle. So I've had a lot of people say to me, because now they see, oh, she's opening here, she's traveling, she's doing this. And I'm like, I'm still a work in progress. There's still a lot to be done. Um, but people are like, how are you so successful? And I'm like, it's pretty simple. I just don't give up. You fail, you
right.
learn, you get back up, you go. So that's kind of my big thing. And then I have people tell me that I'm overly optimistic, and that's
Mm,
not something that's most people, if I have an agent come to me, like I've got a team, right? And they're offboarding team members left and right because they hold them accountable to, you got to make these calls, you got to follow up with these people. And me, I'm that nurturing referral, and I'm like, well, what
right.
could we do to, help them, and what do they need? So that's kind of most, I think, unpopular would be my agent attraction versus I'm not going out trying to recruit people. And then the people that come, I try to keep them because I'm going, what do they need from us? Maybe they don't need that high stakes sales, but they just want to help their family members and stuff. So,
I would like to dig a little deeper into that because this is a good
mhm,
conversation. A lot of the folks that watch this program or listen to the podcast are real estate brokers or real estate agents themselves.
right.
And
Hmm.
you and I have been brokers for over 20 years each. So we have kind of a little bit of a longer perspective. Um, let's not even consider the technological aspect. That's the next follow-up question to this.
Hmm.
But how real estate has changed from 20 years ago, and and how it hasn't changed, by the way, from 20 years ago. It still appears, and you correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not while I'm a broker, I don't have a team. I haven't sold brokered real estate in 10 years. I still have an active. I still do my CEs. I have a couple agents that work under me.
Hmm.
And but it's what hasn't changed is that it's 5% of licensed individuals doing 95% of the business. There used to be a joke in Florida because my father was a Florida real estate broker where he's told me about getting pulled over on I-95 one time and the officer asking for his real estate license and registration. And my dad turned to the guy and said, real estate license and registration? Don't you mean driver's license, officer? And the officer got down and said, no, sir, not everyone in Florida has a driver's license.
Oh, that's funny.
I don't know how much of that has changed. Is there, is it mostly, it's still professionals doing most of the work? Are you still getting the mom and pop referrals? Yes, but there's an aspect, and then there has been a democratization going on. There's been more of a push. There's this whole thing with, the fight of the Zillows versus Realtor.com and MLS. So many changes in that regard. And then we can follow up with where it goes in the from a technological standpoint. But just in the last 20 years, what do you think are the most significant changes? What do you think the things that have changed, stayed the same, that need to change? Any perspective that you could maybe lend on that? That's a big question, isn't it?
Yeah. And
I just
I don't, respond quickly. It'll be, tomorrow morning in the shower, I'll go, oh,
tomorrow you'll do it. Oh, I
I
have
should
an
have said
answer.
this. Yeah. I think the relationship aspect, I think, has stayed the same, but I think the professionalism for agents, because they've seen what it like appears, that we're just, it's easy, especially the
Right,
agents that got in during COVID and didn't really know that, you know, the market isn't always like that. Now houses are sitting on the market again, and it's like, this is normal. A house shouldn't sell in 2 days.
right.
It should take a couple weeks for all the active pre-approved buyers, cash, everybody to get through and look at the home. So I think that's, the biggest, it's the easy, and I think, now we're moving into being, I think back in the day, right? Real estate and insurance were under the same roof, right? like, I don't know, 50s, 60s, 70s, before my time, before I was
Right.
born. But all that was under the same roof. And there was this, let me help you get everything that you need. And I think that went away for a long time. And then now it's coming back as people need to be diversified, where they need to have set them up with the title company, help them
Hmm.
maybe get life insurance to, for that first time home buyer, if something happens to them. Just all the setting up the utility. There's
Right.
this more service oriented that we've got to kind of move to,
Right.
so that we are
Go
even
back
more
towards
valuable.
right, right. Create
Yeah.
your value, right? I did an interview last week with a um someone on the REO side of the
Mhm.
business, managing hundreds, if not thousands, of dispositions on behalf of banks. And she had a very controversial comment, and she says that she's actually tells people this a lot. It's a bold prediction that technology is going to replace real estate agents. Um, and whereas I might see that being true on the sale of large portfolios of properties, or, disposition, maybe you could maybe there could be auction sites that could handle it, blah, blah, blah. I think it's contrary to what you're saying, which is that in many ways, even all this technology and the ability to look at things and find deals on their own, maybe that's no longer the search process is no longer the job of the real estate broker.
Mhm.
But correct me if I'm wrong. There's there's still going to be a world where brokers have to, like, if you can give good advice, like, most people don't live, eat, and breathe real estate, right? So like
Right.
the average person needs an advisor.
I think investments, I think that stuff can easily go on, like, auction.com, or, these different things that have kind of come up. But I could see, I was talking to one of my agents recently, and that's, other people's perspectives, right? They're like, yeah, they're going to be able to go into a home and, robot's going to show them around, or they're just going to walk through. They just need someone to open the door. So I'm not too high on my horse. I think that we eventually are going to be less needed, right? And maybe we're not going to get paid as much because, you've got, the Zillow, the homes.com moving in, and then the whole, Mr. Cooper and all, they're really putting people into there's no other way to get around, like everybody's on Zillow, right? So Zillow
Right.
can easily capture everything. Now they're getting the refinance business. So it's a little scary, I do see things are definitely going to change. And there's
Hmm.
so many agents that aren't embracing things like being more valuable, leveraging AI. It's not going to replace them, but they need to use it as, they're like free assistant or $20 a month
Right.
assistant to help them be more efficient, and stay in the know with the things going on.
Yeah,
There's a
it's
lot of agents that are just putting their heads in the sand and, you know, not
yes.
paying attention.
So I'm 100% in agreement with what you're saying. It is important that you embrace technology, not fear it, and get on board now because it's
Mhm.
happening, right? It just like
Mhm.
the MLS revolutionized the way brokers looked up real estate, and then the next phase of, the internet revolutionized the way we get information. AI was going to revolutionize a lot of the small tasks and productivity methods that we as humans use. That said, the service of being a real estate broker will not go away and should not go away. That human advice, that perspective, that world perspective,
Mhm.
some people may choose to use a
Huge.
computer or an AI as their advisor, but I, for one, would prefer to have Amanda Walsh, the real estate broker, as someone who's got some perspective, really being my guiding shepherd, and that I don't think
Mhm.
that goes away.
I agree. I agree.
Well,
Just it's going to look different as, things
it's
evolve like
definitely going
they
to
do.
look different. And you're
Yeah.
right. And, and two things can be right. Brokers could lose the business to large banks and institutions who see that cost being something that they can do away with because they're just selling, it's about speed, it's about having inspectors and property managers rather than, a whole
There's no,
brokerage thing.
yeah, you don't have the emotion and
Right.
yeah, it's just numbers. It's plain and simple.
So let's talk about the market right now for a minute. Just your perspective. We're coming into the fall. We're taping this in November of 2025. Um, so far, we've seen a cooling off in a number of counties around the country. We've seen that now for the last 2 years. Other markets are just still hot as can be, or at least dealing with a lack of inventory that's creating prices to continue to go up, affordability to go down. Anything that you see that is amiss, I look for fallacies. I'm like, where does the market see things, like where there's a prevailing view or something that you're seeing that maybe the media's not seeing? Any perspective on that you can share with us?
Yeah. So I think about in my business, as you know, I've got 50 plus agents in the brokerage, and then I'm doing, I mean, I probably sell 25 homes a year, not anything, just whatever referral business kind of comes my way. But what I'm seeing, the things that are properly priced, right? If they listen to me, like I just listed a property this week. We're under contract as of this morning. It happened, in 4 days because it was properly priced, positioned, marketed. But I'm still seeing where, people are overpricing and not listening to the agent. I think if the people would listen to their agent's recommendations on this is what we need to do to get the home sold, this is the price point that it should be, then it will sell. So I feel like there's some
Right.
fallacies in the market data just
Yeah.
because
Like
the
a buyer seller expectation spread between, like that's what
because they're
happens when
thinking we could still get up
right,
here, and then now you've got all these price reductions and the house isn't
right.
selling, and next thing it could go into foreclosure or something, when if it would have been properly priced off the jump, it would have been gone and they would have moved on. So I think
So
that's
well said. And that
my
ties back
biggest
to
thing.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that ties back to what you were saying about young agents who don't understand a declining market. My father used to say it's easy to sell real estate when market's going north and prices are appreciating. But what separates the women from the girls and the men from the boys is, if you can navigate a market as an advisor, still get deals done when prices are on the decline or there's a dislocation. And that's the market that we are in or entering right now. Younger people that have maybe not as much experience don't understand that. So like you were pointing to, it's like training agents and brokers on giving the facts and being really honest about valuation, and looking at things differently. That is the key to the new era, I think, of real estate, right? Is like, it's a lot different market than just going out and buying a listing. And it is a shame that there's this younger generation that is either can't afford or is trying to wait for a timing. Hopefully there will be some opportunity that comes ahead. Maybe there'll be a recognition that the stock market's not where to leave your money, and people will move into real estate. We'll see. Anyways, it's been wonderful, Mandy, the real estate broker. It's been great hanging, Mandy. Thanks for joining me.
That's a wrap of today's episode of Debt Doctor. I enjoy bringing this content to you each and every week, and I really appreciate you tuning in. Remember to follow us so you get notified whenever new episodes release. If you haven't already done so, please share one of your favorite episodes with a friend, family, or colleagues. And if you don't mind, leave us a positive review on Apple, Spotify, or whatever your favorite listening platform might be. Until next time, thank you for investing your time with us on The Debt Doctor.